Hi, boys and girls. It's me, Butch. Today, I would like to talk to you about the speed of light and what causes the speed of light, according to Butch. In the world of science and physics, I told you about me, right? I'm 81. I'm old. I'm an artist, photographer, and I make videos about what's important to me because my ticker's not very good, and I could cheat, and that's the end of me. So I'm into theoretical physics. And that's where you can't necessarily prove what you believe. And we have a lot of theory out there, like Big Bang Theory, which says is ridiculous. And a lot of things, like the theory of relativity, is called theory of relativity. It's not been proven. Quantum physics is theoretical, but it's working quite well. And Butch doesn't agree with much of anything, except he says gravity is push. Oops, back on, dear. My cameras thought I wanted them to stop tracking. Uh, they they see a palm and they get all excited. So Butch says that gravity is push, not pull, and that it is caused by the electron, and that the electron sets the speed of light. So I'm going to talk briefly about that. We know in quantum physics, they don't really deal with the physical size of the electron. They assign it some values in advance, and the one value they must assign before they assign even one spin is the Planck constant, because they know from measurements, mostly by a wild guess that turned out to be right, but it seems to be working. Max Planck came up with a number based on dividing a number in half, until you couldn't divide it in half anymore, and looking at that kind of thing. And he came up with this number called the Planck constant and decided that was would work for the electron, and it seems to work quite well. But we also know that it's hard to measure the electron because we use it for everything. Your eyes are using electrons in order to work, and we use electrons to measure things. So that should indicate to you they have some size. Have I got it through your head that they have some size? Okay, so they have some size. What else do they have? What else do they have? Electrons have spin, and they have physical size. So how do they set gravity? Well, Butch says, for starters, you have to know that he says that the entire universe is made up of a smaller unit than the electron, and we can't see it because it's just too small. So we don't see it because we're measuring everything, even the finest telescoping microscope we have. Even if we get it down to 1 electron wide, that's the best resolution we got. We're starting to do tricky things where we look at the reflections from that one stream, and then we run them through a supercomputer to look. It's a kind of quantum. You're sort of looking at it like a quantum computer would look at it. And I don't want to go into any more detail than that, but it's very hard to see anything smaller. But we're learning tricky ways to do something like that. The point is, you're still not going to see a tachyon because Butch says they are moving at tachyon speed, which is much faster than electron speed, and that the electron sets the speed of light. I'm looking at two different cameras here. If I look like I'm looking back and forth, let me look at you. You're the main guy, girls. Hi, girls. So Butch says the physical size of the electron, its here-ness and its there-ness, its upness and its downness, that physical size, which gives us that mass called the Planck constant we can't escape, and some sort of diameter we've sort of measured. We have a couple of different ways of doing them, so they don't quite agree, and it doesn't really matter. The electron is spinning so quickly, it's very hard to tell how big it actually is. Notwithstanding all that, that means in spite of, in spite of all that, we know it has physical size, and Butch says that physical size sets the speed of light by being there, and gravity, because it is pushing everything else around it, including electrons, away. Now it gets overwhelmed by protons and neutrons, but it just sinks into one of the available holes on the surface of the atom, and it's almost neutral kind of behavior, just lets it sink right in there. So negativeness and positiveness are kind of an illusion. Really, the electrons just being pushed around by even bigger things, the protons and the neutrons. So everybody's being pushed around by everything except the electron. We can't break it up because it's composed, which says, of at least two tachyons standing foot to each, one right spinning and one left spinning, just like in a hydrogen molecule with a right spinning and a left spinning hydrogen atom. When they're together, they save energy, and once they're together, pulling them apart is really hard until you apply a lot of energy. And Butch says because they're being pushed together. Electromagnetically, they're being held together, but the electromagnetic qualities, Butch says, are coming from the tachyons and the electrons. The electron, Butch says, are composed of tachyons, and everything outside the electrons and the protons is also tachyons. So space, Butch is telling you, is either tachyons or even smaller things composing the tachyons. And that's why they're not really there. And that gravity is push, 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 push. Space is pushing us down on the surface of the planet, partly by the push of everything out there in space pushing us down, but Earth is making a helical wave. It never makes an actual circle. Earth makes one helical wave chasing the sun. If this is January up here, we want to be back there in January. So as the sun goes with the Milky Way, the Earth wants to go around the sun, and it is. It's going around the sun. And then back in January, it's back up there. It made one wave through space. No circles. That's an illusion of relativity. But that push of that one wave is causing the Earth to spin, and everything is trying to push down towards the center of the Earth. So we are being pushed down towards the center of the planet, not being sucked down, pushed down. And it's the outer pressure of the universe trying to crush us. And they can't, because we become solid matter. And solid matter is really tricky to crush. Butch says solids have vertices. Butch says solids have vertices. This is all theory. So if this was an atom with a whole bunch of electrons, each one of these little dotty things here, I hope you can see them. These are electrons. And this thing as a atom that's a solid. Pretend they're the same thing. See, they got the pointy things. But as you start, and it's spinning, everything's always spinning. Oops, come over here, dear. Over here. As it's spinning, it starts expanding. And as it expands, it becomes a sphere or a spheroid. And Butch says that's a liquid. And if it spins fast enough, it'll develop a hole through the center, and then it'll become a torus, which is a gas. But all of those things, again, are pushing down on everything else. Everything is fighting for its own space. What I'm trying to get across here to all of you is gravity is push, not pull, and it is caused by the electron, okay? So that's it for this video. If you like it, please give me a like. And if you dislike it, tell me why. I'm just a old queer man who's in love with physics. And I wrote a book, The Shape of God, where I had to start thinking about things I just really had never really thought about before, and realized that we don't have all the answers, and I worked out my own. And that's it. So bye-bye from Butch. So if you like this video, maybe give me a like. I'm trying to get this channel rolling, mostly about my science ideas, but I'm a queer man, and I don't want to get into dwelling too much on gay stuff. It got me troubles at times. But I am a queer man, and thank you for visiting. And Butch is going to say bye-bye.